Hello and welcome. Andy here from Twisted Narrative, and wow, this is our very first Sunday Shiver. I'm super excited. I'll go into the reason why we're doing this in a minute, but first and foremost, I would like to introduce, well, our cast. And it is literally a cast tonight because, as you can see down here, I'm actually the director. So therefore, you must be absolutely the cast. Just introduce yourselves. We'll get to know your characters in a minute. Natascha, you first, please.
Hi, I'm Natascha. I'm playing from the Netherlands. I've never played Call of Cthulhu or Shiver before, so I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Excellent. And Jocelyn.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Spence, nay Cady. So my character is a nod to her because my family was out west, even farther west than this, around these times. And I have never played Shiver myself. I played Call of Cthulhu once. Um, really looking forward to seeing what a hash I can make of it.
It won't be. It'll be a delight. Matt.
Hello, I'm Matt, um, and this is my second, possibly third. No, I think second time playing Shiver. I'm very excited to do a different genre and see what happens.
Yeah. And last but not least, Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave. I've never played Shiver before, and I'm looking forward to it.
So, yeah, this is our cast. The familiar faces, you hopefully have seen them on some of our other videos. Um, but I'm very excited and anxious tonight for this game, and I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be at all, but I am for a number of reasons. Shiver, never really run it before. I've had the opportunity to play it, loved it. But it's very close to my heart as it has been written by a few people that I actually know and I'm in touch with. So I kind of feel I've got to perform tonight. This has kind of got to work. I feel I'm anxious. I want to do a quick shout out actually. Obviously, I'll be putting all the links about Shiver in the comment section below, but I want to say a big hi to Charlie Menzies, Barney Menzies, Ben, and Adam as well, the complete Shiver team. Sorry if you've been expanding and you've got more members, but as far as I know, it is just the four of you at the moment. They do some amazing work. They've got a Patreon. Uh, you know what I mean. I'm not particularly good at words, considering what I do for a living. That is a marvel in itself. Um, but check them out. Shiver is a narrative based TTRPG. It's an award winning one as well. It has actually won some awards. It's very cinematic in style and hence the nod to director and casts. But it isn't scripted. It is a role playing game and we will be using dice for variants. The dice are a little different, although they're used as pools of dice to determine successes. We will be guiding myself, first time running the game, and our cast and you, the viewer, through the rules of Shiver. So, without further ado, we're going to do our first Sunday Shiver. We hope to do one every fortnight, and these should be one shots. But I am notoriously bad at running one shots, so it might be a one shot in a number of parts. But the idea is each Sunday Shiver will be looking at a different genre of horror, and there are so many to choose from. I'm very, very excited. And I'm looking out the window, it's gone dark. It hasn't gone cold, but it's gone dark, so it feels just so appropriate. So first and foremost, Shiver Sunday, and this tale is called Save a Bullet for Me. Content warning first though. This is a horror based game which contains mature themes, including but not limited to body horror, graphic violence, blood, death, power imbalances, sexual themes, and social injustices. Please watch at your own sense of safety. If you feel uncomfortable, then please turn us off. We do some other ones that are not horror based. Perhaps you'll enjoy those instead. One of the really cool things about Shiver is that they do a Shiver board of classification. This kind of gives you some hints about the game itself. So the length of play time is 2 to 4 hours. It should be, but once again, I am running this. Number of players, 3 to 6. We have 4. Subgenre, Weird, Wild West. Film aid rating, 18. This is R rated. Does 18 exist anymore? Am I using the English
I
I told you
don't
about
think I'm old enough to play,
classifications.
Andy.
Well, not mentally. I think most of all of us are not able to do that. But I think is R rating the US version?
When I left 18 years ago, it was.
Yeah.
But that's 17 and up, I think.
Okay, it's designed for adults.
Yeah,
I'll make
definitely.
a
Yeah,
note
in the
of that.
Netherlands we use 18.
18.
Just age. Yeah.
See, I mean, we're learning. I mean, all the viewers have
Excellent.
switched off now because I was hoping to watch some kind of role-play thing. Content warning: violence, undeath, body horror. Recommended ability level tier 1 to 3. And this is what I quite like about it is watch list, things that have inspired this game, which our cast already know, but an excellent movie if you like that kind of genre, Bone Tomahawk, and an excellent TV series and actual movie, Deadwood. So we imagine the credits beginning to roll. The settlement of Bloodcreek began illegally in 1870s on land which had been granted to the Lakota people in the 1868 Treaty of Fort Laramie. The treaty had guaranteed ownership to the Black Hills to the Lakota people, who considered the area to be sacred. The settler squatting led to numerous land disputes, several of which actually reached the United States Supreme Court. Everything changed after George Armstrong Custer, Colonel George Armstrong Custer, led an expedition into the Black Hills and announced the discovery of gold in 1874. The announcement was a catalyst for the Black Hills gold rush, and miners and entrepreneurs swept into the area. They created the new and lawless town of Bloodcreek, which quickly reached a population of over 5,000 souls. We begin tonight's tale 6 months after the founding of the town. Not long after Custer's last stand. You are all journeying to Bloodcreek for your own agendas, interests and like. It's been a long, tiresome and exhausting journey. You are all part of a wagon train. Anywhere between 30 and 50 wagons moving across the plains first and then into the hills itself. It is late autumn, late October, leading perhaps to the start of November. As the camera peels back from the credits and follows this wagon train moving into the hills, sort of the combination of the heavy rain occasionally turning to sleet comes down. It seems that you have all found yourself on the same wagon. The camera sort of pans down and Henry Antcliffe, it picks you out first. What does it see? What do you look like?
An unshaven man in his 40s. He's got red hair, big sideburns, round glasses, a mustache, and he's wearing, traveling clothes, but a top hat which is all squashed and tied onto his head with a ribbon.
Nice.
He's got baggage stashed away. He's not carrying anything in
No,
particular.
I mean
you know.
this is a long journey, and you know,
Yeah. So he's got a big winter coat on and fur coat.
perfect. And Alice, we next move to you as the camera pans and focuses on you.
Alice is walking next to the lead team of, I guess, horses, occasionally touching the leader. And for some reason, you notice that the wagon seems to avoid most of the bumps. She seems to have like an uncanny ability to make the team go where she wants it to go without leads or whatever. She's dressed in simple leather clothing, a leather hat against the rain, wearing 2 revolvers on her hips and a knapsack slung on her on one shoulder, and that's it.
Perfect. And it pans across to you, Bridget.
So you see Bridget dressed not femininely, but in the skirt that you would expect. Not absolutely disheveled, but not in the best of nick. She's clearly not very well off at all. Kerchief over her hair, but you can see that she's very ginger, bits of red hair sort of peeking out in the sweat, and the sort of skin that should not be exposed to the summer that they've just gone through. So very freckled, very burnt. As a matter of fact, more than once she's been mistaken for a family member of the gentleman that we've just met. And that's what you see. And you don't see her with any sort of weapons to take care of herself.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, our protagonists, our stars of the show. Matt, what do they see?
So the final individual is a grim-looking, broad, tall gentleman with a kind of very, very rough. It looks like it's a couple of weeks worth of beard growth and straggly hair that's pulling, sort of spilling out the back of his flat-topped, wide-brimmed hat, which is pulled down, not quite covering his eyes, and certainly making it easier for him to see other people, but nobody to see him. And kind of covered mainly in a large, very, very travel-stained and tired-looking brown duster, and beneath waistcoat, shirt, and very, very tired. Everything, and then what's the only thing that looks like it's been properly cared for are the 2 gun belts and weapons sitting, waiting for use. And across his shoulder and kind of at his side is sizable satchel, but a sense that this might be everything he owns, but he travels light.
Perfect. Now it's been a very long and tiresome trail. You've all got to know each other fairly well. You are going to be arriving in Bloodcreek by nightfall. You decided to press on. It makes little sense to stop the wagon train now. It'll be after dark, as I say. It is late October, but those scant few miles left, there is a trail to follow at least. This muddy road, and you can sort of see there's drainage ditches, not that have been dug, but have just formed sort of naturally to one side of the road. A small, almost creek running down, and you do notice, and you've certainly noticed this now for the last maybe half day, that the water running in the creek is, well, red. It has this blood-like colour to it. Do any of you would have all sort of noticed it, do any of you comment on it? I mean, perhaps this is just literally what it gets its name for.
Bridget would have looked around to see if the ground is red, if the soil is red.
Soil's muddy, dirty. Some of the wagons are stalled at the moment in this soft ground, and everything has to come to a halt, and there's jeers and shouts to move and help get the wagon back moving again. But it's not directly red.
Andy, Henry is an Englishman and an immigrant to the USA.
Yeah.
He was brought up in the north of England in the industrial parts.
Yeah.
Does this look like sort of like ironworks? You know, is it like an off run from like mining and iron and that kind of thing?
You've seen something similar before. Yeah.
So does it look just like, you know, pollution and runoff from mining operations?
Yeah, you would say so. Yes, definitely the red comes from iron.
Looks like a very industrious activity around here.
Alice would have dipped her canteen in the stream, and once it's empty, and would have a careful taste of it to see if it's still good for the horses to drink.
I think we'll make our first roll for the night, drinking blood red water.
You might be better off melting the snow.
There's not that much snow yet, so it's been raining.
Yeah, it's true. I suppose this is going to be some kind of smarts roll, wits roll. It's going to be sort of survivalish as you're testing the water for drinkability. You tell me what you want to do, because we're going to make the first roll. We're going to see some crazy different dice, and then we're going to try and interpret them.
Yeah, so smart sounds good because it's basically a finding out stuff test.
Yeah.
And I have a dice pool of 3 in that.
Sounds good. Give us a dice roll.
Ooh, 2.
Okay, so that looks like it's two smarts and 1 punch in the face dice.
That's great. I did not need that yet.
No. So the yellow coloured dice with the really nice icon of it's a light bulb but with a brain stuffed in it, which is unsettling and majestic in similar issues. You got 2 of those, which is good, and then the fist is grit, which is used for, you know, doing fundamentally strength-based things, punching people, lifting heavy objects and the like. But 2 smarts rolls. You taste this and it tastes good, actually. Surprisingly good. Whilst it has this red coloration, you are aware where there's amounts of iron, it has that almost blood-like taste to it, you know, that metallic. But no, this actually tastes crystal clear and fresh, and you feel the fatigue wash away from you, actually, as you just take that little sip. You feel not just refreshed but fortified.
I filled up my entire canteen.
Okay, yeah, get some of this good stuff. Nice.
Alice, you look completely revivified.
Yeah, I'm not tired at all. It's been a good day for walking.
Oh. What was it the water?
It tasted really good. Yeah, despite the coloring, it was really fresh water just from the mountains.
If I find that quite odd, can I do a different role using different logic and different
Absolutely.
skill sets?
Yeah, yeah. You
Okay.
do what your character would do.
Okay. I would like to use my tracker because I'd be sort of tracking the source of this water, and that gives when I'm tracking, it lets me add a talent,
Yep.
and I'm tracking or investigating.
Sounds good
So
to
does
me.
that sound reasonable? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not the most difficult GM to convince about doing anything to push the story along. So that sounds amazing.
Okay.
It sounds very appropriate that you want to find the source of this water.
Okay. So shall I build that upon my wit because I'm a maverick?
You're a maverick. Yeah.
Okay. Mm, and an extra talent. All right, this is as good as it gets, pretty much.
Okay, so you got some heart there.
I got a luck, I got a wit, and I got a double of the talent thing.
Yeah. So this is
doubles.
this is good. Yeah, 2 doubles. So you can remember seeing this coloration start maybe a few hours back, and you sort of notices it early on, and as you play back now, very much thinking like perhaps Henry did before it was actually drank, that this might be a pollutant or the off-run of something else. This must be something else. And you can remember there was a tributary. I managed to say the word right. Coming into the creek, another creek that seemed to be then discoloring this, and it comes from the hills itself, and it comes from sort of this forested area of hills. You couldn't really see where it is, but you've kind of got a mental idea that it's kind of to the interior of the hills, where there could be some claims stated, some mining may be going on.
I will offer for everyone to fill up their canteen so they don't have to get into the mud out of the wagon.
Alice, if I could do an Irish accent, I would do an Irish accent because Bridget came over as a refugee from the potato famine, and has been eking out a living in these rather dire areas.
Yeah.
So I will spare you my attempt at an Irish.
It is completely up to you. I am not very good at accents, so I totally understand.
I would be worried. I've been noticing this red coloration for a while now, and it shouldn't refresh you. It should have just the opposite effect, or no effect, or a different taste. Can I taste it?
Yeah, sure. Under my canteen.
Okay, I'm just gonna wet my lips on it.
I love it. There's this really odd thing that you shouldn't be drinking. Give me some. You touch your lips to it. It tastes crystal clear. You don't take very much of it. I mean, it
Yeah.
tastes. I mean, you know, when you have that perfect glass of clear water that has been like in the fridge for so long, and it is just so cold, so refreshing. Tastes like that. It's clear mountain water.
So I've got it on my lips, and I've got a lifetime of having drunk clear, beautiful Irish water and following the water along this wagon trail. And I say, or I kind of wipe it off, and I say, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I think I'm going to not take you up on your kind offer.
I screwed the lid back on the canteen and ask the two gentlemen if they want their canteens refilled.
It's all right.
Not for me.
Don't think it. I don't think so.
Well, it tastes perfectly fine to me.
I chuck my water bottle down.
Okay.
I catch it and go back to the stream and fill it.
Okay. Interesting. You've got it. I mean, it is. It doesn't look clear, but it tastes clear. It's not like it's just the rocks that are creating an optical illusion or anything. You seem to be delaying the wagon train now, and there's jeers from behind. Come on, get moving. Come on.
Oh, I'm not the driver. The driver is controlling the horses. I'm just walking next to the horses, making sure they get the right path.
Get your horses out of the way if you're messing with the water. You fill up and you jump on the wagon or move alongside. It's moving very, very slowly, and as I say, every mile there's one of these large number of wagons that gets stuck and has to be redressed. It's hard work, but round about 7, maybe 8 o'clock. Have any of you got timepieces on you? Have any of you got the luxury of a gentleman's pocket watch? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. It's a good one too.
Yeah, of course. You're from England.
I'm from England, but some time ago.
Yeah. So if you take a quick look at it, you realise that it's probably about 10 past the hour of 8 at night now.
So yeah, I've got a silver pocket watch.
Nice silver. I will make a note of that.
It's engraved as well. It's got a little engraving in it.
Excellent.
Which is a present from, I believe it was a present from my father.
Okay. And are you, as you look at it and you sort of see what time it is, perhaps one of you notices the watch and comments on it, and he says, yes, it's a present from his father. Fond memories. Maybe, maybe not.
Oh, if anyone does ask about it, I say it's the only damn thing I've got from him.
All right.
Apart from my red hair.
Well, all I've got from my father is my red hair. No watches for us.
Certainly one of the people on the wagon train would have mentioned about it, not in an avarice way, but just in passing comment. But you have arrived, and much of the wagon train kind of stops outside the town itself. There isn't the capacity in the town for all these wagons, so they begin to pull up on this cleared land area that the timber has been taken from to build the properties that have been built so far. You don't go deep into the woods to log when you've got forest closer. So this settlement is beginning to expand, and Bloodcreek, well, it's renowned for its lawlessness. Murders are common, and justice for murders not always fair or impartial. At this moment, there are torches alight to light the town up. It's composed of a small number of timber buildings, but most of the residents are still sleeping under canvas, and the nights do get very cold now. You are all so aware of that, moving on the wagon train. The streets, even at this hour, are busy. You move past the population sign. It says population 5,321. You see the sign has been altered a few times, and it just seems the population is going up and up and up, rather than that rather horrid going down. There is a grisly sight, though, as you move through, as you see the graveyard as well. It seems where there are many souls in such a small community, tempers do flare, and diseases do spread, and the graveyard is, well, large. You make your way forward. The mud drags at your boots if you're fortunate to have boots. If you do not have boots, your feet are cold and wet, muddy. You walk past the docks, obviously the doctors. You see that only two of the buildings of note busy. One is the Imperial Hotel, the other is Golden Nugget Saloon. There are properties being put up here. The sound, even at this time of night in the dark with lanterns lit, there are people still working to put up wooden structures. What would the four of you like to do? Assumes that as you have got to know each other, you have departed together to maybe explore Bloodcreek somewhat.
Bridget is about 30 and rail thin, wayfish because of aforementioned famine. And the living here is not easy at all. So she's got some muscle. She's had to work for a living and not at anything other than manual labor, but she still isn't up to nearly as much as a big, strong man. So she's probably going to approach the saloon and see if she can trade some work for the evening for some food, and she'll plan to spend the night in the wagon like she has been doing.
Can I ask a question about Bridget, please? Is she like just got the clothes she stood up in? Is she just dirt poor and freezing?
Almost. She has a bag, a very small bag with like essentially a change of clothes and a couple of things, but she's quite poor, yes.
While we're on the road, on the wagon, traveling, if you're noticeably cold and such, Henry would definitely have lent you a blanket.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
No, just yeah, it's all right. No, think nothing of it.
I'll make it up to you.
I would suggest that we find a stables or a cheap but clean, out of the way pension to stay the night. Stables are always good and warm. They have straw.
No stables here at the moment.
I need a drink.
I could do with a drink. It's been a long time on the road. I think my rear has adopted the shape of the corner of that wagon, and I think a little liquid refreshment might be most helpful.
Okay, so you move into the Golden Nugget Saloon as your choice here for different things. Bishop, Henry looking for some refreshment, Bridget looking for work, and Alice maybe accommodations perhaps, or at least to kind of ask about.
Also going to see if they already managed to get the first barrels of beer that we carted up the hill into the saloon, to see if we have some good beer.
No beer as yet. They haven't got it to here. You sort of move in, and at this time of night you have to kind of push past a crowd that is standing sort of in the doorway, and there are many people. You see there are saloon girls. This is a period rife with prostitution. You also see that there's a card table being played poker. You move your way to the bar. Are you going to push your way in, or are you going to politely wait until a space happens, or you can get the eye of the barkeep? There's a lot of rough and ready looking people here. All of them, well, the majority of them, 90%, definitely miners. They are dirty. They smell very bad. They've probably been out all day panning.
Reminds me of my army days.
The other 10%, apart from obviously the saloon girls and the staff here, what you would perhaps call entrepreneurs. These are people that have arrived here to take advantage of, well, the population, not necessarily in a legal way, but things need to be supplied, etc., etc. And they are moving around and doing deals. They are slightly better dressed, and you kind of see who is who. There's one person in particular that catches your eye, kind of overweight gentleman, which is kind of unusual for these times. People that mine tend to be, you know, perhaps not the best personal hygiene, but not necessarily unfit. And he's doing a strange thing in the fact that he's writing in a pad, has a pencil, and he's got quite a large beard and moustache.
I think Bishop would try and make his way to the bar, and not muscle his way through, but he's kind of quite tall, quite broad, has a look of somebody who's seen things and doesn't want to talk about them, and so would not so much intimidate, but just try and be obviously moving forward until people get out of his way.
So I want a roll from you if you're not doing it in an aggressive, obtrusive way that is going to cause trouble. Now, you can be intimidation, which kind of is perhaps heart. You can be lucky. If you want, you can use your smarts, or you can outwit people. You can even use your grit to physically put. You can even use strange if you want to look like that person that no one ever wants to stand by because he's got that 1,000-yard stare, those dead eyes. It's up to you. I mean, this is the great thing about this system, is that you decide how you want to do it.
Think the argument, or my proposal, would be wit, on the basis that because it's mental agility, I would basically, as soon as anybody catches eyes with me to kind of gauge what I want, it would just be deadpan staring them, hoping that, or until they back down and move out of the way.
At the moment, we're playing free and easy. I don't want to cause this too much trouble, so a wit roll sounds good to me. It does say mental and physical agility, so sounds good to me.
Can we support roles in this system?
Oh, yeah.
You
can. It is up to me to decide whether you can. And it's not like other systems where you just go, I'm going to give them the aid action. You kind of give me a cinematic narrative of how you're doing it.
As Bishop starts to move through the crowd, I fall in behind him. Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking completely relaxed and fine. But as he moves, I'm like kind of backing him up. So if someone steps out of the way, I step into it.
Right. Okay.
Into the space.
Sounds
and
good.
Occupy it solidly. Yeah. I'm not a small man.
No. Sounds perfectly fine. So all this does is increase your dice pool. I don't think you're doing anything particularly outrageous to give him a talent dice, but I'm happily give you an extra skill dice.
Okay.
And just, I don't think that this would help, but just so as not to get lost in the crowd of terrifying miners, Bridget would keep tight behind you as
No,
well.
I love that narrative to it as well, but it's good.
Alice will end the line and make sure that no one bumps into frail Bridget.
I love it. You're
That's
moving
good.
as a
Everyone's been to
yeah.
a rowdy gig where you're pushing through a crowd.
yeah.
Alice doesn't
Okay.
look like the person that you want to mess with, even though she's a female in that period.
It's absolutely fine. The one thing that I want to point out is this is a horror-based game anyway, so it's cinematic. So whilst we are drawing on historical times, um, you know, this is a game where we can have that kind of thing happen. And there were examples as well. Calamity Jane, for instance, and other women actually made a massive impact during these times as well, which is fantastic researching the history. But it is a game as well, so absolutely you can do things like that.
Is it hot in here?
It's certainly hotter than it is outside. There's no fire going on. I mean, sort of, God forbid, fires here. The lanterns are a fire hazard, but a fireplace, it's just timber beams, and the whole thing is easily going to go up. And quite often these towns get destroyed through fire. So yeah, we're still waiting for you, Matt.
Sorry, well,
No,
I
it's fine. Yeah,
didn't want to interrupt conversation.
That's not having a go. I'm just saying I'm not ignoring you. Please make your roll whenever you are ready.
Okay, here we go.
You got to be.
Okay, so you've got a luck, you've got a couple of wit, you've got a strange, and you've got you've got 2 strange, 3 strange, 4 strange, lots of strange there,
That's worrying.
which is good. I like this. So the first and foremost, 2 wits is what you need to get to the bar. Your drinks are poured.
I would say as well, like through the journey, Bishop has said very little to anybody, but he orders drinks for everyone.
That's very kind. They seem to only have one kind of drink at the moment. The barrels of beer haven't arrived, and it's whiskey. Of course it is. And small glasses. They call it a shot. Bonus points to people who know why they call it a shot.
Because you shoot it down your throat in one go?
Not at all. The price of a glass of whiskey, same price as a bullet.
Oh,
Yeah,
I never knew that.
Ah,
you did do your research.
absolutely.
nice.
It is.
That's cool.
Learning as we go along. So you have a shot. I might have just made that up, but I'm fairly certain it is fact. Chat, tell me. Not that we've got chat, but if you're watching, research it. Somebody can Google it now, but I'm fairly certain that is the truth. So you do it, but you got lots of strange. Ooh. So you notice with your roll that the whiskey has a strange red tinge to it.
We don't notice that.
No, we'll just say it's Bishop. And I think with your thirst, Henry, yours probably goes down straight away. Just
No. I'm quite surprised that Mr. Bishop has bought me a drink.
All right, fair enough.
So I'm going to pick up the glass and raise it to him and say, Mr. Bishop, you're a gentleman, sir. There's not many of us left. And,
Just Bishop.
Bishop, your health.
Yours.
Cheers. Do we
And I sort of raise.
Yeah. I mean, Bridget and Alice, you've got yours as well.
I offer to chink glasses with everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Plenty.
you do or not,
Alice's arm just snakes through between the gentlemen and picks up her shot and goes, cheers. And
so I think the act of raising to kind of Salute would then, that would be the point at which, noticing the strangeness of colour, frown, and probably dip a finger and taste it.
Okay, I mean, this tastes good. I mean, you've drank whiskey in the West before, and some of it is, rough, very, very rough. But this, to give it more of a modern day, is that of a very expensive malt. I mean, yeah, it tastes. I mean, for those of you who drank it, it goes down. It's warming.
As Bishop's examining his, I've seen mine off. Henry's drunk his. So.
And Bridget knows that because she's so short and slight that, 1 or 2 shots and she'll be on her butt. So she actually hasn't had hers yet. And she sees Bishop look at hers at his. And so she looks at hers too.
Oh, I would if I were you. It's very good. In fact, that's very odd.
I mean, the bottle it's come out of is just a dirty bottle from probably a local distillery.
This isn't, yeah, okay. So I think tasting that, and despite it tasting nice, knowing that and having that vague sort of vibe of offness and the weirdness of the water, Bishop is going to turn and move away from the bar and basically try and find a table or a space, a corner or at the side of the room. Doesn't want to be surrounded by people, to try and sit if there's an opportunity to do so.
I'm going to need a luck roll here. I mean, if you're looking for an empty space, you're going to have to use luck. If you want to force yourself, move, I'm sitting down, that's a different kind of roll.
He's going to look around. He doesn't want to be in the middle of the room. He wants to have a wall at his back. So he's going to try and find it.
I mean, at the moment, it feels very claustrophobic for you. I mean, danger could come from anywhere. Obviously, I've not really described this, but there is a staircase leading up to a balcony, and there are extra rooms here that you can see. This is where the saloon girls are taking their clients. There is also a piano playing as well. Of course, there is. So give us that luck roll to see if you can spot an appropriate place. You only need 1. We're not making this super challenging. But let us see if you can find a place that you feel comfortable with.
Alice says, "Oh, they got good water here."
And remind me how the luck bank works. I have 1 luck from the last dice roll.
Okay, so
can I use that or add that to my roll?
You just add it to increase your pool of dice, basically, as far as I'm aware. So you
can only ever have 1. So if you get another one while you've still got 1 in the bank, you have to disregard it.
Oh, right.
So you might as well spend it.
I did not realize that. That is a good bit of ruling.
That being the case, I will burn that luck point to give myself an extra dice. So I've got 3 dice.
There are 3 spaces in the luck bank now.
But that's only for, I think, weirds or stranges.
Yeah, it might be for various skills or whatever else. I mean,
that didn't work.
Well, it's not a case of it doesn't work. Fundamentally, there's smarts, which is 2. You've got a strange and you've got a grit. So it doesn't necessarily not work. That's the great thing about this system. It might work in a different way, and it might not necessarily work in the way that you wanted it to work. So as you look around desperately for a place to sit, there's no empty space. So you could use your 2 smarts, if you can think of a cinematic narrative, to outwit someone to get their seat instead. You could use your 1 grit to intimidate someone out of the way. or you can just leave it because you don't want to necessarily cause an incident.
I don't know if this would work or would count, but with my smarts, I'd like to spot somebody who looks like they're itching for a fight and head over towards them, but via somebody else that I can nudge into them so that I can instigate an argument, which means somebody's going to get up and start a fight, or start an argument and I can slip into the seat. I don't know if that's enough with 2 smarts and whether that really counts. So that's what I'd like to do. I don't know how that will work.
It creates what we call a scene, which is what we want in a movie, using your smarts and actually using a grit, both of which seem to be very appropriate. As you sort of move, you kind of bump into someone that is kind of perhaps looking for a fight, move across to someone in the seat, use your smarts to basically say, oh, you want to hear what he said about you. He stands up, the one that you've just bumped, and a fight breaks out. You sit down, you have your seat back against the wall, perfect. And this is not an unusual circumstance here. It's not like the old cowboy movies where one person throws a punch and then suddenly the entire town is having a barroom brawl. This is violent. This is R-rated. I mean, he hits him very, very hard, and he just goes down like a sack of spuds. That's the person that gets knocked out, basically. And he's just dragged outside by the staff, just thrown into the mud. You all see this, by the way. Luckily, now that he's moved and you've sat down, there's a small table if you wish to join, Bishop. You might not want to.
While that was going on, because I was sort of stood at the bar, I guess. I bought a bottle of whiskey.
Oh, right, okay.
So and I'm looking over my shoulder, kind of keep looking around, like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
Seems like Mr. Bishop has made some friends.
Yeah, it's he played the room perfectly.
In the meantime, I would like to see if the staff are Catholic or Protestant, because I know from just having lived here for a couple of years or a few years and being on the wagon train, that most of the settlers are Protestant and don't take kindly to Catholics.
Okay. So the first thing that you most definitely noticed is there was no church in the town, not one established, and that's kind of unusual because normally it's the first building to be put up for the very reasons why you said. The second is there's a whole mixture of accents here, and on top of that you see that, quite unusual really if you spent quite a lot of time in the East, maybe New York or whatever, but there's what would be considered people from other countries here that you might list as immigrants, but they are kind of being treated like everybody else. You see there's some people from perhaps China. You see there's some natives here, actual true residents, which is kind of unusual. There was just the incident, as I mentioned, as well. But none of them are being abused. If they've got dollar, the dollar is being spent. So you think, which is quite strange, this is quite sort of non-denominational.
Okay.
you think even quite possibly you hear Irish accent, which is a good indication of Catholic, but you hear sort of non-Irish as well. But no one's really
Okay.
talking about our Lord. There doesn't seem to be any kind of preacher, certainly here.
Okay.
It's kind of strange, really.
Um,
No role
oh,
really needed for that. It's something that you would sort of pick up on. It's a melting pot of, well, commerce, you think. You do notice that not only drink is being taken now, not only is the saloon girls and gambling, but um, you see opium, small balls of drugs being sold as well.
okay. Um, the drugs don't really phase Bridget very much, but she'd rather stay away from the whole prostitution thing.
Yeah.
And during their long journey, um, she, when they stopped by any sort of lakes or anything like that, where there were little shells or pebbles,
Mhm.
she had a little drill bit, and she gradually crafted a little tiny well, not a crucifix, but a cross out of
Cross.
shells.
Yeah.
And of course, the cross could be either way, but she keeps it hidden um, because, like like I said, she didn't have the money to have like a nice
Yeah.
metal cross. Um, so I'd like to approach somebody who looks friendly behind the bar, and
Ha 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 ha. Um, wow, that's going to be difficult. There are people behind the bar, but they do not look friendly.
okay, well, I'd like to do my best with whoever's behind the bar, and
So there are at the moment 3 people behind the bar. One of them
okay,
is kind of just wearing quite a sweat stained shirt, but the shirt is actually relatively tailored. It has a collar, you know. There is no sort of colonel's tie or anything, but it's open. He's kind of sweating as he's working, has a big moustache, hair greased back. He's got suspenders, which are bracers. And he's kind of giving orders out and doesn't take particularly much of an understanding the dynamics here that he's probably in charge, smoking a cigar occasionally. The other 2, there's a very thin, wiry man that does seem to have quite a heavy Irish accent. The other man is he's a big man, uh, big boned, if you know what I mean. Um, Kind of long, lank hair, stubbly beard, and they're all just doing business, as it were, really. Um,
okay. I'd like to approach the guy in charge,
yeah,
the first guy that you mentioned,
okay.
um, and I would like to say, "Excuse me, sir,"
He
and
looks at you.
sort of
Yeah,
fiddle my necklace out and say, "I see that that you have quite a number of businesses going here, and I also see that you are very liberal in the people that you welcome into your establishment. I was wondering if there was any work," and I glance at the girls, "that I could do for you in exchange for some food that maybe was not that type of work, if you understand what I mean. No offense intended."
he stares at you as if your words have offended him. He's got a look upon his face that there's a terrible smell just assailed him, a bitter taste in his mouth.
Oh, I've done something to offend you. I am terribly sorry. I'm very new here. Literally just got off of the wagon.
If you're not
What can I do?
buying, get out of my establishment.
I'm with this fine gentleman who I believe just bought an entire bottle. of your fine whiskey.
Good. Well, he can stay then. Can't you
But
see
he
I'm
is my
busy?
traveling companion. I won't disturb you any further.
Good.
I kind of reach out and sort of just touch your sleeve and slightly pull it and pull you away, if I may.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think the Holy Spirit is the one that they really into here. And I sort of wave the bottle of whiskey a little.
Understood. I just when trying to steer clear of that one particular sin or vice or whatever you want to call it. Quite happy to put my back into just about anything else, but that one
I'm sure we
not
can
my
find
favorite.
you. I'm sure there's a situation for you here. I'm sure you'd be able to find
It's
something.
not so much that you just didn't want to do that work. It's this place is filthy. It doesn't look this
That
place.
too.
You know, it has been cleaned. Doesn't look like he wants to play for anybody to scrub the place down. That's just a waste of money, really.
Sure. It also sounds like the Imperial Hotel wouldn't like the likes of me for the opposite reason. I'll worry about it in the morning.
There might be
That
some
gentleman,
folk going there.
if they'd have me, that gentleman over there writing on a pad. What do you suppose he's doing? He doesn't seem like the rest of these folks.
I don't know. I'm surprised anyone can read in here, to be honest.
Maybe he needs a secretary. I do know how to read and write.
Try.
Would
Try him.
you?
I'm going to go and join Bishop.
All right,
Mr. Bishop.
all right. Alice, would you like to join me?
Yeah, I'll tag along to keep Bridget safe.
Okay.
And it's a good job, really, as you. It's like packed in here. There's already been one fight, courtesy of Bishop. You know, an hour or so has kind of passed. People are drinking this whiskey like it's going out of fashion. Henry, you join Bishop. Bridget and Alice, you head across. He's only got a small table. You can see that he's drinking and watching what's going on and making notes. He's, you know, in his late 30s, maybe early 40s. He's seen some kind of life. So, Alice and Bridget, are you approach him?
Is he sitting next to a wall?
Yeah, he's kind of tucked away almost underneath the stairs that go up. So he's kind of sort of back against the wall and back, one side. He's not taking up very much room at all.
Alice will stand next to his chair, arms crossed, and one muddy boot placed on the wrong side of the other muddy boot on the toe. So she's basically standing on one leg now.
Yeah, perfect.
Relaxed against the wall. And tries to read what he's written down.
Okay. He's writing what appears to be an article about the rise of Bloodcreek, and he's making notes. He's got some names in there. He's got some new arrivals that arrived recently, and they are, setting up various businesses. There's nothing that seems to be particularly unusual, and it's just basically notes at the moment about the establishment of Bloodcreek as this boom town, as it were.
Before Bridget can say anything, I say to her, I think it's a newspaper guy.
Interesting. They'd reach out this far already.
What? I heard you speaking. No,
Oh, yes.
I'm an independent. He smiles. You never know where you're going to get a good scoop. The name's Archibald Wallace. Call me Archie if you like, ma'am. And he kind of stands up, and when he stands up, he's forgotten he's underneath the stairs that are at an angle, and sort of bangs his head. Sorry. He kind of pushes the table out. Would you fine ladies like to join me?
I'd be happy to.
Are there any free chairs in the neighborhood?
Sorry, say that again. I was. I think I've. Am I bleeding?
Are there any free chairs in the neighborhood for Alice to hook a leg around and pull them to the table?
We won't slow the game down. We'll simply say yes. You can get a chair. Absolutely. With this time, you pull up a chair.
I give it to Bridget and keep standing.
Lovely.
Thank you, Alice.
So
tell me,
yes.
your line of work must be quite taxing. The research, the writing.
Well, I'm very pleased that you understand. I am a newsman, a journalist, a reporter that comes out to these places, puts my very well-being on the line to get the scoop. It is indeed a most exhilarating but dangerous occupation.
What kinds of dangers have you seen?
Look around you, ma'am. This place is... well, I cannot say what they are, for if I do, well, I'll be on the wrong end of their boot or gun or knife. Or do you know how many murders have taken place this week?
How
He
many?
sort of flicks through. Well, technically 5, but 3 of them, well, are listed as accidents. I'm not sure how one can slit his own throat.
Oh, goodness.
I'm not here to cast aspersions or bring justice, just to report the truth.
Well, that sounds like a noble calling.
He takes a big drink of his whiskey.
If I could be so bold, are you in need of any assistance?
Oh, that sounds very fine. What kind of things do you have? What kind of things can you do?
Well, I am well educated by a small village school, but very well educated there. I was always near the top of my classes. Got high marks in all of my work. I'm very, very skilled with reading and writing. I'm quite good. Well, I'm stammering a bit for this, the novelty of this place, and the shouting and the fighting everywhere, and all the languages. But I'm sure I would soon get used to it. I'm good at taking notes. I'm a very hard worker. And
Right. Well, you are, I mean, hired. I'm afraid the pay is well, very bad. We have to work on commission. So we make a story, and then if we sell it, then we get paid.
Alice kicks his chair and says, "So how is she going to pay for a bed tonight?" And kicks his chair again, softly, not to kick him off, but just like get his attention.
He kind of shrugs and says, it would be, I have a room in the Imperial Hotel, but it would be inappropriate for, even if it was a business arrangement for you to share the room. I couldn't do that.
I'm glad you feel that way. I'm happy to sleep in the wagon. I just need to be fed and not freeze to death, and we can take it from there.
Well, that is I mean, I could afford you a loan if you wanted till you first earned some pay, if you wish. You are indeed well spoken, and you have presented yourself very, very well.
Why, thank you.
You
I really just want to avoid. I'm sure that they are all very well-intentioned, lovely girls. I just want to avoid this path.
well, indeed, indeed. I mean, maybe that is something that you could report upon. I know that would be of great interest, both for the way the business functions, but also, I mean, I constantly think about the health and well-being of the ladies as well, and this might be of interest to the newspapers.
I wish that it were of interest to more people. I think it's fortune that has brought us together, Archie. I'm so glad to have made your acquaintance.
Can I buy
Well,
both of
that
you
is-
a drink?
Oh,
Yeah, sure. And Alice also bumps in the conversation and tells Bridget, I think you're about to get a first-hand experience of the girls soon.
as long as I don't have to do it, I'm actually very interested in their experience. I can't imagine it's a good one. And if it is, then I would be very interested to present that fact to the priest back home.
Open mind, first rule of journalism.
Yes, yes. Good to know. I will remember that. Thank you.
In the meantime, whilst this is happening, Henry and Bishop, are you sitting there stoically drinking whiskey and staring at each other? Or are you having a conversation?
When I walk over to Bishop, I just looked to see, did he actually drink? Did you drink the whiskey?
No.
It's just sat in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I put my glass down on the table and a bottle, and I pour myself another glass of whiskey. Are you not drinking, Bishop? Will you not join me?
No.
Is it not
Don't
so
take it personally.
No, I'm not offended, old chap. I just thought it seems a little odd after such a long time on the trial. God knows I need a drink.
Me too. Doesn't seem right somehow.
Quite
Place like this
good.
doesn't keep good stuff. Shouldn't keep good stuff.
No, I totally agree. It's the strangest place to find a decent malt.
That's the thing. You've got a bottle of it. The bottle is a sort of brown bottle. It's got a label on it, and
What's that, sir? Anything
it basically says Bowles Brewery or Distillery. That's sort of BOWLES.
The way you said the name, I thought there would be an extra E in there after the W, but
and it basically says Bloodcreek as well. So it's certainly locally made.
Is it red?
I've
got
yes.
a glass of it.
I mean, it is red.
Got that red,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the water.
And another fact: anybody who has spent any time in Ireland, they have red lemonade, which is absolutely, it's lemonade that is red. It tastes wonderful, but it makes sure if you have like a shandy, it makes your shandy red as well. I'm not making this up. This is fact.
Is it grenadine?
Murphy's made
No,
it.
no, it's just red lemonade. It's lemonade that I think has red colouring in. It tasted like lemonade to me when I went across there anyway. So yes, this is red whiskey. You know the way whiskey has sort of amber, sort of brownish
Yeah.
colour.
Yeah.
This has that brownish colour, but it is far more sort of reddish. But it's solid.
I'm sipping it. Henry's sipping it, and like just trying to sort of work out. He's trying to imagine how you get this awesome drink and it out here. This town's been here 6 months.
Yep.
You can't obviously decent malts are aged for years.
Yep.
Yeah,
this brewery wouldn't have been out here by itself.
Frankly, Henry's of the opinion that most of this American stuff is just not.
Yeah.
They call it whiskey. But he keeps that opinion mostly to himself. He's not a fool.
This shouldn't be.
To get something that really does remind him of something from 20 years ago is, a really good Scotch is bizarre.
You have this conversation with Bishop. Do you verbalise this?
I'm going to say it's a very queer business to get something like this in less than 6 months.
Yeah.
And he's smelling it. It's like, and he is tasting it, but
the bizarre thing is that the more you smell it and the taste, there's no aftertaste. There's no extra smell. It just tastes like perfection. If your idea of perfection is a very, very good aged whiskey, and when you drink it, Alice will be familiar with this. It doesn't refresh you like the water did, but it gives you that lovely warmth down your throat. Not a burning kind of horrible taste, but kind of warms you all the way through, and you don't feel cold anymore. You don't feel that chill that is actually out there.
I undo the buttons on I've got a great big fur travelling coat on, so it's all right. So I'm just going to undo that and relax a bit, undo his coat so he can actually sit properly. And underneath his coat, he's got very decent clothes on.
The other thing is it does what it's meant to do as well, and you can feel the alcohol. It makes you feel merry. You can feel that you're getting drunk on it.
Right, well, I'm going to lay off then because we've got work to do tonight. I've got to find somewhere to stay, need rooms, etc. We've only been here 10 minutes. I'm not going to get smashed.
Do I see him undo his furs?
I mean, I think we're going to have to, because you were preoccupied at the moment impressing Archie. So I'm going to say a luck roll for you as well. So whatever your luck is, this is why I like luck in systems, because you're asking sort of almost did I notice this? But your attention is elsewhere. So I don't like to say no, because it's quite fun for you to be able to notice it. But luck is one of those lucky coincidences that you do notice it or don't.
Okay. If I read it correctly, I have a luck in the bank that I'm going to spend.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, so you've got 2 strangers and 2 righteous fists, which is grit. So just like we played out with Bishop, it is up to you. You luckily didn't see anything, But with the strangers, if you want to give us a narrative scene, you can do.
Yeah. I think that I would. Alice, have you been drinking the whiskey?
Oh yeah, I had a shot at the bar.
Okay. Then I'm trying to think of a scene where I don't take away your agency. But I'm imagining that I look at you and you might not feel it, but you seem quite flushed. And maybe you haven't even noticed it, but maybe you've also like undone a little bit of something or
With
given yourself.
with the two strangers, I was going
Yeah.
to give you this description anyway, Henry. He's almost got like a ready breck glow around him. And now, probably most of you don't even understand what I'm talking about because it's like from an advert back in the day. It's
Early
not.
80s.
Yeah. But yeah, you see him undo it, and for a moment, there's a shimmering of light that is around him, and then it sort of dissipates. No one else really seemed to notice it.
And nobody else in the bar seems to have this.
Well, I mean, if they do, you can't see it. Perhaps it was
Okay.
just a moment. Perhaps it was just one of the lanterns flaring up or
Yeah.
whatever, an
With
optical
those,
illusion.
with those 2 grit dice, you might also notice you rolled 2 grit dice, didn't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Two
You
grits,
might
too
always
strange.
notice that as the coat comes apart, he's not he's not a weakling.
Mm.
He's quite well muscled.
You notice his hench, glowing and hench.
Now, I don't know how that makes you feel, but
Awkward, personally.
He seems to be stripping off for Matt at the moment as well. I mean, Bishop, rather, as you're kind of doing this at his table. It's like, oh, awkward. I told you, this is my genius.
So I think what I'll do is I'll reach out because I haven't been drinking this drink because I noticed Bishop noticing the red, and then I
Yeah.
thought, oh, maybe this is weird. So I've actually brought over my drink, and then Archie ordered a second round of drinks, and Alice is drinking hers, and I see her feeling, sort of rosy and warm, and I'm really, really torn because I I am very suspicious of this stuff, but I
I
am freezing in really shockingly improper clothes, not enough clothes, and I'm facing, the foreseeable future sleeping in a wagon the over the winter. And so I do knock back the shot.
Yeah. I mean, everybody else is doing it in this tavern. I mean, there's what,
it's
Yeah.
normal.
you
It's
know.
completely normal to and the only
But
odd
then
thing
I'm
is that it's actually really good.
Yes.
so then the second one I'm actually going to sip
Hmm.
because I don't want I'm small and I don't want to get smashed.
Yeah.
But
And it's alcohol. It's not like this is fake whiskey. This tastes
yeah,
like a really good whiskey. It tastes pure as whiskey can be, and there is a buzz coming from it as well.
I'm gonna sort of look at myself sometimes and feel myself and
You feel a
Alice,
warmth go through your body.
do I look normal? Do you feel all right?
Yeah, I've knocked back the second one,
Yeah.
and
Archie,
yeah, it's so nice,
Archie,
nice and warm and good taste. They got good water here. I said it before.
yeah. Archie, have you noticed anything odd about the water or the whiskey here?
No, I mean the water's good, freshest I've ever tasted, and the whiskey, well, the finest I've ever tasted. So much so that I've considered actually, well, maybe going into business with the distiller maybe getting it shipped beyond the boundaries of Bloodcreek. It's only a small concern at the moment. Samson is his name, Samson Bowles. He's out in the woods a little way. He's got a still going there. Set up just after the town started. I mean, if you want to make some dollars here, making alcohol is a good thing. Look, and you see people paying in their nuggets of gold. That they're not spending dollars as such. They're kind of getting money on account, passing across gold that they found during the day here. And the exchange rate, if you are at all aware, is not particularly in their favour. You think the owner of this establishment is most definitely getting the better part of a deal.
Do you know, Archie, if the water here comes from a spring or a well or?
No idea. I mean, it's the creek. It kind of runs around just outside the town itself, but it's accessible. It's the lifeblood of the town, really. You when you create a settlement, you need to have it near a water source.
Of course.
It flows up past the graveyard, then to where the brewery is, the distillery, and then out along the trail. You followed the trail. You've kind of followed it
Yes.
all the way down up into the
Yeah, we
hills
noticed
somewhere.
it. I'd be interested in finding out what the source is.
No, I mean, you would have to go into the hills and into the woods there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Not with winter coming on.
When he mentioned the word graveyards, looking at the background of my character, I would be very curious to know if it was already a graveyard before the town got established. So basically, if the local population here was already burying their dead in that place, or
He sort of looks this and sort of looks up now. I mean, since the establishment of this settlement, that's where where the graveyard has always been. As far as I'm aware, there was no other sort of graveyard there. I mean, we call it a graveyard, but you've probably noticed that, well, I mean, it's not so much that Bloodcreek is full of heathens, but it's full of heathens. They haven't even erected a church yet to any god, be it Protestant
no,
or
graveyard is the proper term. It's a churchyard if there's a church.
Right, well, I stand corrected there, Alice. Thank you very much. I'll put that in my notes too. The one thing that I have noticed, though, is that because winter is coming, the rain is coming down heavier on the hills, and the water of the creek has swelled somewhat since the summer months of the establishment of this place.
Did we come past the graveyard?
You did.
Good. And it's all wooden heads, not headstones, but wooden.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's quite sort of ramshackle, really. Some of them probably don't even have headstones. Some of them have just either stones down or markers.
Crosses.
Some crosses, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much. You don't get the impression that the whole 5,000 people here,
right,
anti-religious kind of some kind of massive cult. But you just get the impression that God is perhaps not foremost on their mind. God will come to them at some point when they're very close to death and they need to pray for salvation. But they all believe that time is a long way off.
I'm going to go and get a room.
Okay.
Bishop, I'm going to probably pop over to the hotel and see if I can get myself a bit of some place to stay and take a look at that. Are the rooms available in this saloon? Is this a?
Yeah, I mean, rooms are available, but you rent them by the hour. It's going to be very expensive to have a night's sleep here.
I'd forgotten the prostitution angle, which
I mean, the owner of this place will happily rent you a room for a night.
Oh well, I think no, not with the ladies. No, that won't do at all. I'll definitely. Is it over the street?
Yeah, I mean, it's not difficult to do to get to. As I say, there's only a small number of actual wooden structures. Many other ones are being built at the moment.
So I'll pop over to the Imperial Hotel.
Okay. So as you make,
if anyone cares to join me,
I'll be in the wagon, I'm sure, tonight.
well, that doesn't sound right.
I thought you were going up to the room with whatever his name is.
Archie.
Archie is the name. You should remember me, Archie Wallace. One day I will write a story that will go down in history, and you, my lady, will be able to say I met him.
And he was gentleman enough not to invite me
No,
to spend the night.
as I
in his
say, I
room.
could lend you an advance on a commission you might earn. You seem trustworthy enough. It might cover you for a few nights if that's what you want. As we are going into business together, but it is up to you. One of the great things about being freelance, you are your own woman. You make your own decisions.
I like that. Maybe one night. One night with a real bed and a hot bath. Maybe just the one night.
So he sort of reaches into his kind of wallet, takes out a few dollars, and so says there's $10 there. Obviously, it would be ungentlemanly of me to charge you any kind of interest. So just when you get the money, $10 back will suffice.
Of course. You have my word.
So
I will, as far as going to the hotel is concerned, I will wait till the ladies look like they're going. Basically, if the ladies are staying in the pub, I'm not going to move from where I am, but I'm going to stay in the same place as the two ladies.
mm.
So if they go over to the hotel to sort rooms out, I will also go and sort a room out.
So it's down to you ladies then. Are you going to head across to the hotel with Henry and then have Bishop follow, or not?
Yeah. I will fall in next to Bishop and say, "Want to go look for some like pension somewhere else in town?"
Glancing around town, don't know if there will be anywhere. And I feel like walls might be good.
Okay.
There are.
Alice feels in her pocket and think, yeah, maybe just one night.
It's been a long wagon train. As you spill out of the Golden Nugget Saloon, it's busy on the streets, and now it must be close to 9:30, 10 o'clock. I can't tell you, but certainly Henry can with his nice silver pocket watch.
I'm happy to do so.
It's at this point, as you begin to cross the very muddy road, that you hear a gunshot. Now, whilst we said that this is a lawless town, you're all very aware that shooting a gun costs money, I mean, that was a whiskey just wasted. If you're going to murder someone, you use knives or just hit them hard with a bit of 2x4. You don't really shoot them unless it's a gunfight and someone draws a gun on you. So, especially at this time of night, hearing gunfire is unusual. You hear a second shot, but to your sharp ears, you think it's from the same gun rather than it's a gunfight going down.
Are we all crossing the street at
Yeah,
this
you're
point?
crossing the street,
Yeah,
and
we're all crossing the street.
this is a distance away, back towards the edge of town, back towards the graveyard.
Bishop turns to the sound of the first shot. He stops and looks towards it. With the second one, he's starting to move in that direction, but he's kind of moving to one side of the street to try and get something against it, or to be ready to have something against his back should he need it.
Alice says to Bridget, stay close to me, and pushes her behind Bishop also to the wall, and then starts like almost not quite melding into the shadows there, but definitely trying to move quietly and unobtrusively.
Okay.
This town seems very rough, even by my experience. I'm going to go.
Get in cover, you big oaf.
Well, I move briskly to the wagon and retrieve my bags.
Okay. You've got distance to go. You're going to have to get to the graveyard, more or less, that's on one side, and then go across to where all the wagon trains kind of parked up, parked up outside of town.
Oh, hell, sorry, I didn't quite realise that. I apologise. In that case, I'm not going to do that. I thought the wagon was kind of bounced off.
No, there were 30, 40 plus wagons that had all come in.
Okay, yeah. I thought they'd kind of just rolled into town. Sort of thing.
It would literally fill the entire town full of wagons.
My mental picture just reorganised.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's probably difficult with online as well. So,
in that case, I'll move over to the others.
Yeah, you begin to move forward, and you see an individual that is sort of backing up at the moment. There's confusion in the street, and people have kind of gulping, kind of watching, but moving out of the way, kind of trying to sense where the danger is coming from. A lot of these people have been drinking quite heavily, so they're a little inebriated, and fundamentally moments pass between these gunshots. The four of you, well, let's face it, you are the protagonists of this story, so you are a little bit more together than the extras that we have, and we have fantastically a massive budget of all of these extras. In fact, is that not Brad Pitt playing a dirty miner over there? So you move forward and you see a man backing towards you, a gun in his hand, pointing down the street, and he's sort of wobbling as his boots are cloying in the mud. He's dressed like one of these miners, and it's easy to see that his gun is old and poorly maintained. Something from the graveyard. I saw it.
What, like a mountain lion?
No, it was a man. I'm sure of it. It climbed out of one of the graves.
I'm going to stride up to him and just kind of grab him by the scruff of the neck and pull him close. Mm-hmm. How many?
Just the one. I don't know whether I hit it. I'm not good with the gun, and it's dark. I just saw this shape.
Just like the stories my nana used to tell me.
Probably a grave robber.
Probably
maybe.
A grave robber. Put your pistol away, man, before anyone takes offence.
He pauses
Starts,
for a moment.
Leaps to the wrong idea.
He pauses for a moment, looks at you, going to say, "Who the hell are you to tell me what to do?" Then thinks twice about it, sort of shakes his head and puts his gun away. "I tell you, I saw it. Saw them. Or whatever."
I pass him the bottle of whiskey and say, "Take a drink, old chap.
Oh.
Your nerves."
He swings it down quite heavily, then passes it you back. You're not so bad.
I step away and sort of take a couple of steps in the direction of the graveyard, peering into the darkness. And as I'm doing so, my satchel, I'm kind of adjusting the strap, and I've got a knot on my coat, and I sort of tie it so it holds the load at my back to keep my hips free. And I'm kind of tucking coat to the sides. I look like I'm getting ready for something, and I'm peering into the darkness to see if I can see anything
Okay.
in the direction of the graveyard.
And before...
Oh, sorry.
One at a time. We'll start off with Bridget, and then we move to... I know everybody's excited because it's like an hour and 40 minutes into the game, and we've not really done anything other than drink whiskey. But that has come to an end now.
Yes. I would like to, because Bridget was raised on stories just like this and absolutely believes them, and doesn't want to see any harm come to anyone, and is really curious to see an example for herself, because she's never seen a ghost or anything like that. So I am going to, wearing my stealth suit underneath my clothes. Whatever that is.
You're what?
It's a piece of armor you can wear.
Yeah, but not in the Wild West.
Yes, this is...
Well, it's the Wild West version of a stealth suit, which would be...
Long johns. One of those full-body underpants things.
Yes!
With the flap in the back.
I'm still not entirely sure how that is a stealth suit.
I know everyone wears them.
Yeah, I mean they do, but everybody sees them wearing them. So I
okay.
back to my first statement.
Okay, widow's weeds, full veil.
Yeah, I mean that is cool. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, which gives me a +1 talent when I am stealthing, and a +1 talent when I'm tracking or investigating. So I want to head into the graveyard and see if I can find these ghosty things.
So can I just for this moment establish what is happening here?
Absolutely. So, I have never played. I'm probably doing this wrong.
No, it's got nothing to do. It's just this marvelous scene that's about to play out, which I'm just going to clarify that this is the case. So you, smallish, wiry lady, throws off her out of clothes, and you've got this long black dress upon you that perhaps goes down to the floor, perfect for nighttime. Perhaps the sleeves of the dress are long and easily cover your pale hands, as it were. And not only that, you pull this widow's veil over your face. So like some huge floating black shadow, you head into the graveyard.
Tiny floating black shadow.
Tony, yeah. Does anybody not see the irony of what is unfolding here? As you have become the spirit of the graveyard itself. But that is, of course, if anybody sees you, for you're attempting to creep into here, aren't you? So we will establish this stealth roll. And I love the imagery, by the way. I wasn't mocking it. I just think it's funny that like a ghostly widow, you are now walking around this graveyard. It's like this is where the legend actually starts. So give me a stealth. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. So, I mean, I'm assuming really this is sneaking. So you're going to be wanting to do a wit roll for me.
Wit roll, +1 talent for stealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I already have a talent in wit.
Mm-hmm.
and then +1 talent when tracking or investigating. Yeah?
I have absolutely no idea. As I said, I'm learning the rules as we go, but I'm not sure whether talent dice stack. I mean, perhaps they should do.
I didn't see that they didn't, but
No,
I
no.
didn't see that they did.
I
I
mean,
think it's the moment your action is sneaking, not investigating.
yeah,
Sneaking and investigating, I think, should be two different
Two
rolls.
different things. Gotcha.
It
Okay.
just sounds very, very strong to be rolling a lot
Yeah.
of talent dice. They're supposed to be, in exceptional circumstances.
Awesome. Although I will say that stealth costs me no additional speed because
Yeah.
that's not adding dice or anything.
That is
That is
absolutely fine.
not my thing.
We're being cinematic here, but once again, I'm trying to learn the rules as well of how they apply.
I
So
get a wit.
you get 1 wit. You got 2 smarts, but then you've got an extra 3 on your talent dice. So that's 4 wit. I mean, you disappear into the shadows, into the night, into the graveyard. So that happens. I mean, it might be the case that you just never see Bridget ever again. Henry, I believe, if you can remember what you were about to say, you were asking something.
I was going to unbutton the rest of my coat.
Okay.
It's a long coat. It
Yeah.
goes almost down to the floor, kind of thing.
Love
I'm
it.
thinking,
Is it like a duster coat
Cady
or?
and Mrs. Miller?
Yeah.
It's a big fur coat. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
I know
the ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So he undoes it. So that basically means he can.
Yeah.
He's carrying a pistol. He's got a gun belt on.
You kind of push it to one side, revealing your.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Alice. Sorry. Anything else that you want to do?
If there's movement if other people are moving towards the graveyard, I'll go with them.
Just seems to be you at the moment. The other man has spilt into the thing. He's babbling to the others.
I notice that Beatrice has disappeared?
It's Bridget, yes.
Bridget, sorry.
Beatrice has completely gone, completely vanished. Bridget, though, has suddenly transformed herself into this black widow and gone into the graveyard. And
I'm stepping after her then.
Yeah,
because that's just mad.
Yeah. So, Alice.
Alice starts moving forward. As a precaution, takes both her revolvers in her hand and will move to the opposite side of where she thinks Bridget will have gone.
Perfect. So you reposition yourself. Now, as you get close to the graveyard, you can hear the flowing of the creek that is quite high at the moment. There is mud around. It's also very, very dark as you get to this point now. The lights are behind you for the town. If anybody's bringing a lantern with you, let me know. Bishop, you are striding towards the pitch black graveyard.
Oz, would I have noticed Bridget doing her stealthy thing?
You certainly would have noticed her preparing and then slipping off into the shadows.
I will just mutter under my breath, bad idea. And do my best to probably not be able to follow her exactly, but in that direction and kind of looking, keeping in a watchful eye and kind of moving with purpose, but also like I don't want to go where I'm going.
She's gone into the graveyard, so it's not particularly difficult to follow in that direction as you move in as well. And then you all see it at the same time, sort of rising up from the ground, covered in mud. And it begins to... Please don't shoot me, he says. I've done me back in here.
Alice puts her guns back in the holster and helps the poor guy up.
Someone shot at me. Not only that, I fell down a great big hole. I got myself a bit disorientated. I went for a leak and yeah, I stumbled down a big hole. And then someone shot at
Go
me.
on. Yeah, let's get you to the docks. I think we met the culprit on the way in here. He thought you were a
What?
ghost or something.
Oh, funny. I would have been a ghost if he hit me. Ooh. I tell you what, though, it's odd. The hole I fell down, I think it was probably a grave. Don't know whether it collapsed or whatever.
Are they preparing for a burial maybe for tomorrow? Did someone die today?
No one prepares for burials. They dig the grave, throw the body in, and cover it up. Unless you got some dollar to actually pay for an undertaker to put you in a box. Most of the folk here, shallow graves, just dug to get rid of the bodies, so that the wolves don't come and get them.
Well, go on. I'll help you back up to the docks. It's not far. I think it's one of the first buildings in the street.
Nah, it's okay. I'll find my way. It's more of a shock, and he just begins to sort of limp off.
Do you think you need to drink?
We all
Or give him the bottle.
All right, he just handed the bottle.
Yeah.
Jim?
Yep.
Question?
Yep.
If you succeed by 2 more than you needed to, then it's a critical success.
That's correct.
So since I got 4, is there any chance that I got a critical success on that one?
Yeah, there's no one to see you, so you are not being seen by anybody.
Okay. So with wit, that would allow me to, that allows me to strike again. Okay, so that's if we're in combat. So never mind.
That's okay.
I was just very pleased that I remembered there was such a thing.
Floating around the graveyard like the spirit of some old widow.
Bridget's quite disappointed that this was just some drunk guy who fell in a hole, and she doesn't buy that there would be an undertaker in this little place. It's only been here 6 months. So she'd actually like to keep sneaking around and looking around.
Alice shouts out, "Make sure you don't get shot by drunken miners looking for a place to take a pee."
So I would like a smart from you, Bridget. If anybody else is trying to find her now and going into the graveyard to double check this story, this tale, you can also make smart rolls, or you can combine your talents. It's dark. I mean, I would recommend, if you're going to have a proper look, taking a lantern or a torch with you. I mean,
how far? I'm probably the furthest away from the graveyard entrance at the moment. How close is like the nearest torch?
Yeah, it's not a challenge or a difficulty just to get hold of a torch. There's no fence or anything. There's just this area that they've been burying people, basically. The ground is very soft and muddy. Yes.
I pick a torch from the nearest spot and just walk over to the graveyard.
Perfect.
Does this count as investigating?
Yeah, I mean, you can give us a roll if you want. Bishop, you are doing something similar.
Yeah, I would not have been reassured by the drunk guy who fell down the hole. So I would also be looking actively, keeping an eye out for things that things I may have experienced in the past, or signs I may have experienced in the past.
Don't know what you're talking about, Bishop. Bridget, you got 1 smarts and 2 strange, which is good. I'm taking that into account. Bishop, give us a roll.
Smarts again, yeah? By 3. Yes, I have 3, right.
Okay.
Good luck, if nothing else.
So you got a look, you can bank that. Perhaps you are a little shaken from your past experiences, and your wit is not helpful here, as your mental agility is perhaps looking for things that are not here, and your grit roll is you preparing for the very worst circumstances. You're kind of almost on Overwatch instead, rather than looking at what's in front of you, just preparing yourself at the shadows that move. Did anybody else want to make a roll, or are we happy with Bridget's? Go on then.
No, Alice would be looking for the hole that the guy fell into to see if it's actually a grave.
Okay.
Like if it has like a cross or some twigs tied to a cross, whatever.
Give us a roll again. This is probably smarts that we are looking for, but we can interpret the dice in this wonderful game. Three grit.
I'm very strong while I hold up the torch.
Yeah, you kind of just like
a heroic figure.
Yes.
Shining light, bringing light to the darkness.
Very good.
This flaming beacon of rather short, blonde ponytailed human.
So that is, and you can have fails. Not all dice that you roll give you successes. 3 grit is probably as far removed from smarts as you could possibly have. So I'm going to turn the clock as we come to quarter past. The doom clock has ticked forward, and this is to do with your revelations, Bridget, and you, Alice, because it was you that rolled the 3 grit. So as we said, you all move into the graveyard, and it's very muddy now. The creek running has probably created a flow of raising the water table somewhat in this area, and you are moving through the mud. And as you bring the torch forward and you hold it high into the air, the light begins to spread over this broken ground, and then you see it, the grave, definitely a hole in the ground, shallow, empty. But that isn't it. As you hold the torch up slightly higher, a second one, also empty. A third, you hold it up even more. A fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, 10, 12, 15, 18, 30 plus shallow graves, all open and empty. And Bridget, with your 2 strangers, they've been dug from beneath. These things have dug themselves out, rather than grave robbers digging the bodies out. And that is the turning of the doom clock.
I'm going to sidle up to each person. Hopefully you're somewhat close together, and say, I know you're going to think that I'm a crazy young girl from the middle of nowhere.
Scared the hell out of me. Sorry, Jesus. Where did you
I'm
go?
sorry. I'm good at sneaking into shadows.
I love it.
God, oh God.
Well, it's worse. It's worse because I promise you, these 30-something graves, these were not dug by grave diggers for bodies to go into. They were dug by bodies getting out. Just like my Nana used to say. See, look, I'll show you.
Please bring that light. Shine that light down here. Take a look at this.
Yeah, Alice.
I hold the torch over the grave so everyone can see it.
Thank you. You see how the dirt has been sort of scrabbled off in these different directions. A shovel would pile it neatly to one side, not cast it all into dust all around. And you can see where their feet were kicking, almost as if they were swimming.
My right hand, meanwhile, has got hold of the revolver again and is definitely pointing it outwards of her circle. So
Andy,
I'm keeping an eye on the surroundings. I'm not looking at the grave.
Henry, yes, you're asking a question.
Sorry, coffins. Are there coffins in the grave, or were there like bindings, rag? You know, were they bound in, stitched up in?
They were.
Or
I mean, no,
just
stripped and shoved in a hole, and
right,
there's
okay.
because of the water table, the graves have got kind of pools of this water in as well. But it's funny you should ask about the people that could afford coffins or boxes, because the doom clock has cycled on. As you think about it, there are other graves perhaps dug deeper, perhaps with coffins, and you begin to look around. People that can afford coffins probably could afford a grave marker as well. Not particularly difficult to find, and as you move towards it, you can hear knocking, you can hear scraping from below the ground.
Hand reaches to pistol.
Bishop, similar.
Yeah. I look
Similar.
around and catch eyes if that's sorry.
No, carry on.
I just catch the eyes of my colleagues, and just like high strangeness.
Bishop, both guns in hand, like Alice, isn't looking at any one particular grave, is just kind of slowly turning and looking around, and will speak to companions, but not looking at any of them. Is just eyes are just looking everywhere and trying to take everything in, and will just say very quietly in a voice that, and like a glance at his eyes shows there's a definite kind of glassy, horrified look. Just says, "Don't hesitate. They won't. Hit the head if you can."
So there's a number of things happening here. I'd like Alice and Bishop both to give me smart rolls. Again, you can combine your rolls if you want, one of you making it and the other person aiding them, or you can make two separate rolls, your choice. Give me a narrative if you are combining them. If not, you've already gave me narratives. You both not looking around rather than looking at the graves.
Is it the smarts roll you wanted? Sorry.
Yeah. This will be kind of, obtaining knowledge from your surroundings.
I think we'd be looking in two different directions on opposite
Perfect.
side of the grave.
Yeah, almost kind of sort of a back-to-back sort of vibe, I think. And
almost a perfect in sync dance of death. Alice, you give us a roll first.
In the meantime, I'm not afraid of ghosts, but I am afraid of Daddy Longlegs, and I've got multiple. Sorry.
That's okay. Alice, you've got a luck dice that you can bank.
No, I can't.
Oh, you can't. And you've got two more grit. You don't necessarily lose your nerve, but you are stoically set, ready. Don't really notice anything else. Set in your ways. Torch in one hand, pistol in the other. Bishop, it's dark. It's difficult.
Flickering torchlight, shading the trees.
Yeah. Because the graveyard does stretch out, and then on the edges of the forest, going into the Black Hills.
Just checking a thing. So for your awareness, GM, if I encounter any supernatural being, such as a ghost or a demon or other such things, I have to make a fear check.
Oh, excellent.
It's my flaw, just so you're aware. I don't know whether you would count what's happened so far as an encounter and you'd like me to do it prior to this roll or after.
I would say why not? We're playing kind of on hardcore mode. This is Certificate 18, and it is these horror movies. You are a protagonist, but this leans right back into your backstory. So I think it's appropriate. Give me a fear test. So a fear test is a different, strange kind of test, I believe. I'm going to only make it challenge rating 1 at the moment because this is circumstantial evidence. You're fairly sure that something has dug themselves out, or 30 things have dug themselves out of this, which is why we're asking for it. But you don't know what has happened to them, why. And they certainly don't seem to be in the vicinity. So give us a strange roll. Okay, so we're going to say that is a failure. And we are going to mark you down as a fear, basically.
Afraid.
Yeah, so you are now afraid. And just so you know, rules-wise, you have 3 levels of fear, I believe, if I'm remembering right. And you can recover from fear, or your fear will get worse and worse and worse. So give us a narrative of how this manifests with you.
So, yeah, I think the rest of the group would notice that generally Bishop's been pretty kind of stoic, laconic, hasn't said much, hasn't reacted much to anything that's happened so far on the journey, but now breathing is harder. And at one point, he holsters one gun and kind of reaches up to grip at something through his shirt on his chest, kind of, and then drops his hand, pulls his gun again, and there's just a definite kind of he's a lot twitchier and isn't necessarily looking as effectively as effective as he did.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you very much. But you can still give us this smart roll. I believe you're
Yes,
at -1 modifier. Is that right?
I am. Yes, but I have a luck banked, so I will use that to
Perfect.
give
Yeah,
myself
yeah,
the extra one. So that brings me back to just 3.
absolutely. And just so if you are watching and you have read the rules of Shiver, the doom clock technically ticks up 1 minute for every failed skill check. But as you can tell, I've been quite generous with skill check failures for you, giving me narratives of how they work instead. So I'm kind of using my own sort of rule that at climactic moments, the clock just automatically sort of moves, basically. Bishop.
Right, roll.
Okay, so you get a look back, you get a strange, and you get this here. So difficult, you don't see anything. Apart from obviously the very strange thing that Henry is dealing with at the moment, which is this banging and scraping beneath the ground. An obvious grave, obviously covered. It's been there perhaps a few months. It's not like freshly dug. The soil has turned to mud, a quagmire, but you can just hear it on the edge of your senses. The boom, boom, boom.
Mr. Henry. Mr.
Reminds,
Henry?
reminds me how the Rebs came through the woods at the wilderness. Henry's he's got his pistol out. Andy, can you just clarify a bit of geography for me? How
Yep.
far away are we from the wagons?
Not that far. The graveyard is one side of the track that has come in, and on the opposite side of that, there's the creek as well that comes through. But on the opposite side of the track that came in is this deforest area where all the wagon trains is. So in terms of time rather than distance, take you no more than 5 minutes to leave the graveyard, get
Okay,
to your
right.
wagon
That's
and back.
quite. It's not 20 seconds away. Right.
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm just putting that out of my mind. Right. Okay.
Mr. Henry.
Bridget.
Yes, I have an idea. I have a snare. You remember I've been using it all along to catch animals to eat. Yeah. Well, it's actually quite a bit longer than it needs to be for a jackrabbit. What if we placed it at the foot of this grave and let this thing come out? I mean, if it's not completely transparent, maybe it could get caught in the snare.
Do it.
All right. So I set up.
Is
I
it
set
only
up a.
one grave that's making a noise? Are there other sounds around?
It seems to be, and this grave looks slightly different to the other graves. The other graves were these shallow graves, whereas this, it sounds like, and there's no splinters of coffins in any of the other graves, but
Right.
this
Okay.
definitely sounds like someone's banging on a piece of timber.
And on the theory that their head would be by the headstone, and they'd be standing up this way. I'm gonna put the snare at their feet, and it's about a 5 foot diameter. Diameter, about a 5 foot diameter snare, and there's trees around.
Well, there's no trees
Hang
around. You're in a graveyard.
Oh.
It's a cleared area that has.
There's trees on the edges of the graveyard.
Yeah.
Trees on the edges. Okay. Do we have? I mean, I can hold it for now, or
Boom. Boom.
does anyone else want to hold it for now? We can get some more rope or something.
Pin it down with a gravestone. I pull it up.
Oh, good idea. Good idea.
A cross out for staking it down. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant.
So yeah, there's not gravestones here.
I didn't mean gravestone.
Yeah.
I meant a marker.
Yeah,
a
that's fine. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
masonry at the moment here in Bloodcreek, not at all. But like Van Helsing, you withdraw one of these things, this makeshift cross, a fair piece of wood, obviously sharpened and staked down into the ground, and you wrench it out. You just hear banging and scraping.
Yeah, my nana says that.
Yeah, is that the?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going
and
to
my
take.
nana said that. Sorry.
It's going to take some time. This thing is buried in a grave with mud on top of it and trapped in a coffin.
Well, we can get ready, because my nana said also that the sharpened stakes can be good for some types of fowl and fey. Of course, not the birds, the foul creatures of the night. And does anyone have any silvered weapons? Those can be good. Salt. Does anyone have a bag of salt?
You hear Alice just laugh in the darkness.
Yeah.
Like mockingly.
I like, what? Say,
salt's expensive.
These are all tried and tested. My nana could tell you, but rest her soul, she didn't make it through the famine. So we need to do what we can. All right. I think I'm best off sneaking around behind, and those of you with some physical strength, if it's physical, maybe you can take it down that way. Maybe give it a head start, dig it up a little bit. What do you think?
if anything comes out of the ground there, and I pull my pistol out, I'm going to shoot it.
Okay, the rain is turning to sort of sleet as you're standing around this grave, as the hour is ever moving forward, and there is just this ominous.
What sort of time is passing?
I mean, since you came out here, probably with your investigations, a good 45 minutes, an hour.
Oh, good lord, I've got time to nip to the wagon. I'll get my gear.
I mean, yeah, this thing is struggling to get out of its coffin.
It's nothing. Yeah, right. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna go and get my bags. This is.
All right.
I'll
Scream if you see like
yeah,
people that look like they belong in grave.
Yeah. So I'm going to run to the wagon.
Yep.
And grab one of my several bags and come back.
Okay, you come back with some of your gear. Nothing has happened as you have set this snare at the front of the grave. I mean, it's cold. It's tipping down with this sleety rain.
Alice would have shouted after you, "Bring a shovel."
Well, I bet there's a shovel on the side of every wagon for digging them out.
Yeah,
digging the
absolutely.
wheels out of crap. So yeah, I grab one. And,
Meanwhile, Bridget has disappeared again, and I'm trying to find the best vantage point to not be seen by whatever comes out, however it comes out.
Alice, I throw the shovel towards you. Okay,
Do I look like I have hands to catch something?
She's currently got a torch, a torch and a.
Bishop's got.
I'm holding a torch and I'm waving a revolver in probably just slightly to the right of the direction you're coming in.
Okay.
So no, I don't have hands to handle the shovel.
I've got a big sort of carpet bag, travel bag kind of thing over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Which I drop down onto the.
Okay, it's damp and wet and splashes into the mud.
I'm not very happy about that, but drop it down, have a rummage.
Boom, boom.
Something wrapped up in cloth out of it.
Yeah.
Something long wrapped up in cloth out of it.
After a while, Alice sort of sighs, puts the revolver in her holster, looks for a good place to plant the torch on top of a marker or like wedged inside a marker, so it's still quite high up. And I will start removing dirt from the grave.
Okay.
Mud from the grave.
Technically, this is illegal. I'm pretty sure that this is illegal.
Well,
to actually dig up
the banging. There's banging coming from underneath here. Do you think that's legal?
I think it's very strange.
I mean, it could be someone buried alive.
Someone may have been buried alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see what's in here and start, helping it a bit. You guys keep an eye out. I'll try and remove some of the mud.
I think we should assume that whoever is in there is probably in need of help.
Yeah, I already helped one guy out of a grave tonight. I'm pretty sure I can do that with the second one.
Probably his friend.
I like the way you've come to the conclusion that it's someone that's buried alive an hour or so after listening to him try to escape.
They must be absolutely fine. They must have an air source, so they'd be dead by now.
Throughout all of this, Bishop is.
Yeah, go Bishop.
So Bishop is just looking and watching, and knowing that Alice has put her gun away, is kind of making sure to keep her covered because she's actively trying to unearth something terrible. But keeping an eye, and as also as much as possible it's probably obliterated by the rain and stuff, but glancing at the kind of immediate ground nearby open graves to see if are there any signs of all of the feet are all of the shambling footsteps are going in one particular direction or anything like that, or I mean it's It's pinning it down, so probably not.
Well, you say that, but that's an awful lot of traffic, and these things, their footsteps have not been light or steady. You see that quite a lot of them have dragged their feet into the mud, creating grooves. And with your experience, well, they all seem to have moved off in exactly the same direction into the woods themselves, into the forest, into the Black Hills. You are aware that if you go under the tree cover, you probably might be able to follow a trail, not just because of the impressions in the ground, but the way these are shambling, they will have broken vegetation and the like.
Yeah.
So you see that, Bishop.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's this steady sound of a shovel hitting wet mud, and then a splush, and then wet mud, splush.
It's terrible work. It's tiring. So I want you to give me a grit roll, please. This is something that you should sell at, and it's the only thing that you've been rolling all night is grit. So it's going to be amazing to see what happens now. Yeah, one grit is absolutely fine. You got another luck roll as well. So it's not a difficult act digging up a grave. It's hard work, and especially hard work in this weather, as the mud is cloying and heavy, and you move it and the mud sort of subsides back, the water flows in, but fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, these graves have not been dug very deep. This one's substantially better than the paupers ones, perhaps, but you eventually hit wood.
I knock on it twice with the shovel.
Oh, and there's an instant boom, boom, and with your luck dice, the arm that punches through the casket.
I can never be lucky.
Does not. Oh, you can never be lucky.
I can never be lucky.
Oh, thank you for being honest about that. I think it just attempts to grab you. I get to roll some dice. I've not rolled any dice. Do I want to roll some dice? Should I roll some dice? I've become a fan of players rolling dice instead of me.
I could make a
give me
something that bursts through.
Give me a dodge roll. I was going to let you. I was going to. It could be wit. I'm happy for you to just use your grit, so it grabs you and you just pull yourself away.
Can I
use strange? Strange is basically my main attribute.
Not directly here at the moment, Henry. This thing happens, and then you can do something. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Just wondered if I could pitch in and help out.
You will do in one moment.
Yeah.
Since Bridget did the warning about the supernatural stuff, I had my doubts from the beginning. I mean, there's all these empty graves. Can I use strange to prepare myself for what's coming out of it, and then try and avoid it? Or do you want me to use wit?
I mean, strange is technically the use of magic, psychic powers, and other unnatural abilities. So I want to tell you what unnatural ability, unless you have magical psychic powers, that you are instilling on this. Is it a prayer?
No, not that way. I'll go with grit or wit, whichever comes out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you need to tell me what you want to get, and then you decide which one you want to roll. So if you want to roll a grit, that's absolutely fine, because it obviously
grit to fend it off with a shovel, since that's the only thing I have in my hands at the moment.
Okay, it's a shame that you couldn't use strange. Okay, so this thing just grabs you, and at the moment it's got you tight. Bishop, you're a distance away, kind of doing your explorer kind of into the woods. They've gone this way, and you turn round, you hear the shovel hit the casket, and then you hear the casket splinter, and the cries, not necessarily screams, of things that are going on. So, Henry and Bridget, in this moment, if you are watching, this hand has come through. The hand is rotten. There are bones exposed. The stench is overpowering. What would you like to do, Henry and Bridget? We will say Bridget first, and then we'll move to Henry, both of which are simultaneous.
Okay. Actually, Bridget would want to wait until the thing comes all the way out.
Okay.
So is that okay?
Yeah. So you don't do anything at the moment. You kind of
Well, I
sort of
do have something poised and ready to do.
yeah. You sort of your breath. You kind of prepared yourself for this. So Henry.
I'm holding this wrapped thing in my hand, in one hand, and I reach out another, grab hold of the back of Alice's coat, and yank as hard as I can.
Okay.
To pull her away from the.
This is straightforward grit. Then I would like, please.
This is my first roll.
Yeah,
How exciting is this in this entire system?
It's great. I'm really enjoying it.
Do I roll all my dice?
Well, you should have a grit pool.
I have.
So you roll that, and you look to see whether you've got you've got the other dice as well. So you've got one grit there, but you've also got strange, 2 strange. Okay.
This is a very strange situation.
Yeah, it is very strange.
Weird.
So with the strange,
Henry's never seen anything like this. This is just beyond his ken, and he's seen a hell of a lot.
With the strange situation, the thing has too strong a grip upon Alice. Far too strong a grip. But you succeeded with your grit, so you do actually manage to pull Alice away. Both of you staggering back and perhaps sort of almost doing that fall back, but you're in a sitting position in the mud as you're doing it, and you kind of not sure the strong grip of this creature, this undead. How did you manage to pull Alice away? And then you see the reason why. The wrist has broken, and the hand still clamped around Alice is still moving as you have pulled the hand from the arm. And it is in that point that I would all like you to give me fear rolls, please. So this is just basically a strange roll. And all you need is a single strange dice symbol. Bishop, you're not there.
Strange is my main ability, so the talent point I have there also goes in.
I'm cool with this. This just means you don't get as frightened from such horrific things as this, or maybe you do. So there's lots of luck and everything else, but no strange dice there. So I'm assuming that because there was no talent dice with those, that was Bridget's and Henry's.
Yep.
All the luck. Okay, so all of you join Bishop with taking a
I
level.
have one thing in the talent dice, so that's one.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry. You are right. It confused me with the star, but that was a success. We was rolling strange, so you are correct. So Alice, you remain calm even though you have this disembodied hand. The fingers are still moving. It's kind of like a hand spider or face hugger or whatever that is pinching and clawing into your skin. But you manage to compose yourself. Bridget and Henry, you take a level of fear. And with that, Bishop, you also hear there is commotion going on. Also, with all of this, you feel this thing begin to rake down into your skin. And that,
I'm wearing long boots and leather pants.
that's okay. It is a supernatural entity with a strength from beyond the grave. But it will count as a point of armor to you. It still hurts. But that is where we will leave it for now. I told you this might take more than one session. This is what happens when you go drinking whiskey in a bar. But I think that is
I'm
the
off tomorrow. I can go on for 3 more hours
Yeah.
if you take the toilet break.
Well, I'm very, very pleased that you are indeed enjoying it. I'm very excited to see what happens next, and certainly the first part was defining your character, setting the scene, and well, who knows what information you have uncovered. But for now, you know that they are out there in the forest somewhere, and you still have the thing from the grave to deal with at the start of next session. So sort of the credits roll to be continued, with you all, apart from Alice, being scared. So, as usual with these, I like a sort of round table. Favourite part of the game, first impressions on the game, as we said at the start. We haven't played or run huge amounts of Shiver. I'm sure that I've kind of homebrewed some of the rules a little bit, but I think the narrative flowed okay with it. If I'm too far off the mark, and anybody who's watching this, especially if it's Charlie who wrote the thing, please let me know. I am always open to criticism and taking on board the way that the system should run to, the way that I've run it. So let us start with Dave. Any standout moments, any favourite bits? What do you think to the system?
It's quite different, isn't it?
Yeah.
I found the dice rolling a little bit confusing at first.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the elements of the interpretation of what comes up on the dice and building it into the story.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I really like that, because you're riffing on what comes up on the dice and interpreting the dice.
Yeah.
And I like that creates an element of that spontaneity, the chance to be spontaneous and interpret them into a success. If you know,
yeah.
and sometimes the dice roll's completely alien, but it's that's quite an interesting mechanic. I found that quite fun.
Yeah, I think once you get used to what the symbols mean and how you can kind of interpret them, it gives you a very interesting way of telling a narrative. In other games, I mean, I love them, and you can determine, you normally get success but with consequences, or a partial success but something bad happens, which is clear cut, but you then have to go, well, so what exactly did I do? With this system and the icons and the dice, it's quite clear what happened in that circumstance, or rather it guides you towards, oh, this physical thing happened, or this weird thing happened, or whatever. Yeah,
that's really quite it's very different.
Yeah.
And I found it quite surprising.
Mm-hmm. Good.
But very enjoyable.
Excellent stuff.
I did want to roll more dice, and I just didn't quite get the.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm terrible for asking people to roll dice. I much rather people just tell a story. So if you ever want to roll some dice, Dave, just say, "Can I make a roll?"
It's just that I think that's just new game itching to
Yeah,
try.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm never
It's-
opposed to people rolling dice, but quite often I just sort of think, well, let's just move the story along. I kind of the kind of GM that thinks we should only make a dice roll when we don't know where it's going, rather than oh, I'm walking down the street. What do I see?
Exactly.
Make a dice roll. It's, well, no, you're looking around. This is what you see, sort of thing, really. Anyway, totally agree. Let us move to Jocelyn.
So, yeah, I had a sort of flash about halfway through as if I was getting the hang of the dice rolls right,
Hmm.
which maybe I wasn't, but the way that I interpreted it, all of a sudden I went, this is just like reading tarot. No offense to people who believe in tarot. I don't believe that tarot is true, but I love tarot decks because you get these weird sorts of like, oh, well, if I look at the situation in my life this way, oh, that's an interesting insight. And so I think that they're really
Yeah.
interesting and useful and beautiful. And it occurred to me that this sort of richness, which is a little off-putting at first, maybe, but of the dice rolls is like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, I could use some actual physical strength there, even though I'm kind of a weak character, yeah, actually, I could lean into the strange, or I could lean into so so that I love that, absolutely love that, because and then I was thinking about like Powered by the Apocalypse. So you run across the same thing. Here's a dice roll. Okay, you didn't get everything you wanted, and then usually the GM says, okay, so here's your success and here's your consequence. And instead, sometimes you did it, Andy. Sometimes we did it. Sometimes it just sort of fell out naturally. Sometimes it was a bolt from the blue idea. Um, and I've only played Call of Cthulhu once, but the numbers, I mean, this entire page looks like an Excel spreadsheet in 8-point font. I was just like, what the heck? And so I went into that with a character,
Hmm.
actually technically the same character, really well defined so that I could find a way through the numbers.
Hmm.
And this time I had a really loose idea of who she was. And the things that were happening developed her character. I mean, she wasn't going to have a crucifix and not want to be a horror. I mean, that
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
totally not
No,
where I
no.
was going. But I loved that, I was building her as we went and
Yeah,
in relation with the characters. So I had loads of fun.
cool. I think one of the key things is the interpretation of the dice, and I think you're perfectly right there. As you roll something, and then you make with it what you roll. I mean, rules within Shiver, fundamentally you need successes or failures technically, otherwise this clock ticks on. But
Yeah.
I kind of prefer the more open narrative of, well, it doesn't necessarily work in the way that you said, and I might tick the clock on a little bit, but even so, you can make a scene from what you've got, rather than saying, well, no, that doesn't happen. It's
And
like,
also, yeah. Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
Just that also in the rules that I was reading, that rather than taking a success for yourself
Hmm.
in certain circumstances, you can actually choose to move the clock back instead.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's really nice.
Well, it is, but you're all doomed. This clock is only moving forward. Well, the nice thing about Shiver, to be perfectly honest, is they've expanded kind of their universal, the games, really. As I say, it's heavily based on the concept of movies, and originally it was visualized as horror movies, in particular the slasher genre, but they've now expanded it to blockbuster movies, more child-friendly kind of movies as well. So you can play heroic versions of Shiver. You can play non-horrific, but I think they're working on the equivalent of Jurassic Park type adventures,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones type adventures, and everything else as well. So there's a lot to do with the system, really, when you talk about movies, because there's a whole load of different genres of movies out there. Natascha.
I quite like the fact that basically you tell what you want to do, so it's very. I try and tell it in a cinematic way, like the pose of leaning against the wall with one foot crossed the other ankle and the arms crossed, like the saloon tropes of all that sort of stuff. So in my head, I have all these Western trope visuals, and I just plug them and use them when appropriate or perhaps inappropriate. And I like how the dice make it really easy to play human characters instead of overpowered fantasy
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
This felt far more than, for example, still. What's the other one? The Swedish one, Faison.
Yeah.
Which was already getting towards more human levels, but this felt even more human level, like we're just flesh and blood teamsters or people actually riding in on a wagon. We only have simple handguns. We don't have superpower suits or technologies or whatever. It's just no flaming swords. It's just a bunch of revolvers, probably a sniper rifle or shotgun in that waddle that Henry's carrying, and a shovel in a torch, and that's what we're having to do with it next time.
Absolutely.
So I'm liking this a lot.
No, definitely. I felt it conveyed what I wanted to do, which is, from those two movies, well, one movie, one TV series, Deadwood and Bone Tomahawk, kind of. I think it's important setting the scene, which is why I'm not bothered. This is going to go over to a part two, as it were, really. But I got the feeling, I personally was visualizing it as those movies, and I could see all of your characters and the setting that it was in. When poor Bridget went up to the barkeeper to go, "Can I get a job?" And it's like, who the hell are you? Get out of my tavern.
You talk with like Ian McShane in my head, by the way.
Oh, excellent. That was who I was channeling, and um, uh, for the stream, obviously, I don't use foul language, but sort of warning with Deadwood, the language is very, very foul, but very appropriate to the setting, and really
Very
does.
funny as well.
Yeah.
Why isn't called Swearingen for
Yeah,
another
yeah. Well, I mean, he's based on a historical character that did it. It's a fantastic series. Last but not least, Matt.
I liked it. It was good. Uh,
Good. I'm pleased.
no, it was really nice. Really nice playing it again. And yeah, diving into a very different genre than the last time I played. And yeah, I think echoing kind of the comments that have been made about the humanity of it and the kind of the skills that this system has is really nice, because they're much what's nice is they're much more intangible,
Hmm.
but also that makes them more tangible. So like grit is that thing of it doesn't yes, it's about physical activities and stuff like that, but you don't necessarily have to be bulky and strong. You don't need to have a high strength to have good grit. And
Yeah,
and that's what's nice about it. And it kind of yeah, and I think it just leaning into and being born out of those film tropes, those filmic ideas, just makes it really nice, because everybody's seen a film, and certainly I know a lot of people that when I'm talking to people about tabletop role playing in general, and they're kind of, if somebody's new to it, regardless of system, one of the things you tend to start with is, well, is there a character in a film that you kind of like?
yeah. No,
Do you
absolutely.
want to be like Aragorn or Legolas? And you pull on those archetypes and those tropes, and that's what this system is entirely, and that's what's lovely about it. So it kind of, it's almost, you start having that conversation ready to have the conversation about character, but it's the opening of the conversation about character is that conversation about your character, because it's like, no, it's like in that film or this film, and yeah, and it's just nice to see how them leaning into it so much for the system lets you as a director, GM do it, and us as players just go, I've seen a cool somebody do something cool in this western,
Yeah,
and that's what I'm going for.
yeah. No,
It
no.
might
was
not work,
actually-
but that's what I'm going for.
For my character, I was actually during the game, I noticed that I was channeling Sharon Stone, the lady from Silverado. No, not Silverado. The Quick and the Dead.
The Quick and the
Yeah.
Dead.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Amazing movie. I mean, I could have in the classifications put, you know, hundreds of Western movies down there, all very good. But this was specifically, and hopefully will develop into horror, which is why I kind of went for the bone tomahawk kind of thing, because things are going to get gnarly very, very rapidly.
I already
Good.
had a Calamity Jasmine, so I didn't want to go in the Calamity Jane route.
Andy, can I
yeah.
just say there's a lovely bit in the game where you random the random character creation.
Yeah.
Because you've got such a fantastic wealth of information to come to, films and stuff to come from.
Yeah.
Just random character generation rather than just going with tropes.
Yeah.
I made up 3 random characters and I thought they all worked.
Yeah.
And actually 2 of them were kind of similar to other characters who were, there were something that crossed over too much. So I just went with the 3rd one. And
Perfect.
It's just that's great. That's and it's so simple and it's just you've just got concepts and ideas and it's so easy just to come up with characters.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
No,
Really enjoyed that aspect of it.
I very much enjoyed running it. I was a little nervous running the system. Hopefully I've got it right, but to be honest, I had no issues kind of running it for the moment anyway. I don't mean not liking it, I mean just not knowing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, it worked very well. So thank you very much for your comments. I particularly enjoyed the drunk that have fallen in an open grave and you thought was a zombie.
Yeah, that
was quite good. Only to discover there was not just one open grave, but 30 plus of them, and yes, they all were zombies. Or walking dead, should we perhaps call them technical terms. But we will see what you are up against next session. So it goes without a doubt, if you have stayed with us, and it's highly unlikely, but if you are someone that's watched it all the way through to this point and you haven't already gave us a like and a subscribe, well, I mean, you might as well. You've suffered this far, so do it, please. Thank you very much. It really helps us out. If you haven't watched it, especially if you only watched the first 30 seconds and then turned off the video, well,
They're not hearing this one anyway.
yeah. I know you're not listening.
Stuck.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was actually going to say something terrible, but I won't do because I'm a nice person. Yeah, well, it's your choice. You missed out on some excellent fun. So yeah, please give us a like and subscribe if you can. Check out Shiver. All of the links are below. Really like it. They've got a great Patreon and everything else. Big shout out, as I said, to the designers. And in 2 weeks, we will do Sunday Shiver Part 2, Save a Bullet for Me. We will be back. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Bye.